Hi everyone, welcome back to the Purple Broom Apothecary Presents. I am Natalie, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm looking a little because thanks to Arwen Lynch, well, I was watching a video, a proposal video, and it made me, so now I look like Rudolph, so just bear with me here. Today I'm coming to do a couple of different videos. I'm going to do the Saturday Sling as I talked about earlier in the week, but right now I want to do another video for the witches, the herb cabinet series. Thanks, Arwen. Now I'm like totally off my game. This video right now is going to be part of the herb cabinet series. I want to talk about an herb that I had read a lot about but didn't have in my formulary until the Ren Fair. Thank you, Scarborough Fair, Renaissance Festival. I now have some Eyebright. Eyebright is the herb that I want to talk about today. Now, this is the powdered form of Eyebright. It is a plant. It's like a bush, but I believe it's considered an herb. Nicholas Culpeper refers to this herb in his Complete Herbal. Nicholas Culpeper, for those of you that do not know, was for all practical intents and purposes, an herbal physician. He was a naturopath, I guess, the original of the naturopaths. And he wrote a book back in the 1600s called the Culpeper's Herbal. You can still buy it. I have a copy of it, and it's actually a pretty fantastic book in terms of he took a lot of time to sit down and write down all the different properties of over 400 different herbs. His focus, of course, was medicinal, not so much magical, but it's interesting that he does give correspondences to the various astrological signs and planets in that book. So that being said, he did relate Eyebright to Virgo, said that it is ruled by the sun. The juice was used to make eye drops that was supposed to help with any and all eye ailments. So cataracts, glaucoma, which for those of you that don't know what glaucoma is, it's your eye is like a little sac, and it's filled with this gelatinous fluid that helps bend the light to focus it on your retina so you can see. And when you have too much of that fluid, because the fluid drains naturally, but when there's too much buildup of too much of that fluid, it puts pressure on the optic nerve in the macula, which is at the back of the eye, and that creates glaucoma. It can actually cause you to go blind like that. For those of you that are wondering, I was an optician for 14 years. That's how I made my way through college. I was a board certified optician, so my husband is back in that field, hates it with a passion, but is very, very good at it, and our daughter is now also an optician. So, anywho, he said that these drops would help any ailments of the eye. I presume he also felt that it was going to help with hyperopia, presbyopia, and myopia. Myopia is when you have trouble seeing far away, but you can see fine up close. Hyperopia is the opposite. It's when you can see fine, you have trouble reading, but you can see fine distance. And then presbyopia is age-related, and that's when you need bifocals. So when you're doing the trumpet arm, as we call it in the field, when your eyes have difficulty going from distance to up close and focusing at a fast rate of speed, and you need bifocals. So I presume that he meant those ailments too. It just said cures all ailments of the eye. Another thing that he said that Eyebright was good for is memory problems and a weak brain. And for this, Culpeper recommended brewing this into either white wine or a strong beer, that it would help you recall things if you did this. Now, to me, that seems a little counterproductive, because when you're drunk off gas, you don't remember much, right? But that was what he recommended. Now, building on that, Scott Cunningham, in his Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs and in Magical Herbalism, he had two different books. I have a copy of each. Scott Cunningham kind of builds on that. He says that it is indeed ruled by the sun. It's a masculine herb, that you can brew it in a tea to help improve your memory, which makes far more sense to me. Now, I personally have not used my Eyebright at all yet, but I want to talk a little bit about the magical properties, what Eyebright is good for. Now, in his magical herbalism, Scott Cunningham mentions using Eyebright for making an air-based condenser. It's interesting because in that book he does not refer to gender as masculine or feminine the way that Culpeper does. In magical herbalism, Scott Cunningham has chosen to move away from the traditional male-female and moved into more hot and cold. And he refers to this herb as a hot herb, meaning masculine, just so you know, versus cold, feminine, which I'm not, as a female, I don't know that I like being associated with cold. Women like to be thought of as hot, but whatever. That was his choice for that book, so I'm not going to disparage that. Now, in terms of magical properties for this, Llewellyn's Book of Correspondences, dun, 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 this massive Bible of every possible correspondence you can possibly think of, refers to Eyebright no less than 24 times. Now, I went through each one of those 24 references and condensed it down to basically it deals with clairvoyance, sight in a situation, insight, divination, so basically sight into something that you need to know. It referred to clairvoyance, clarity, divination, dream work. Improvement is into make an improvement in your life. Insight, intuition, to support or access memories. The mind, mental power is into raise your mental power. Psychic ability, the senses, particularly sight, truth, visions, etc., etc. So those are the things that Llewellyn's refers to the use of Eyebright for. Now, what I found interesting is that in Llewellyn's complete book of correspondences, Eyebright is not listed as an herb. It's listed under other plants. Because when you look at the index for this book, it's very oddly laid out until you understand why they did what they did. So they have the index laid out in terms of the topic you care to know about. So if you're looking for crystals, there's a whole section, an index just for crystals. Then there's an index for herbs. Then there's an index for trees. Then there's an index for, other topics that you may want to know about. So like insight, clarity, clairvoyance, psychic ability, all of that. So, this is a massive book. And like I said, there were 24 references to Eyebright in that book. But they all kind of lead back to the same thing in terms of magical properties, and that Eyebright is one of those herbs that is used to increase your psychic vision or psychic ability. You can drink it in a tea, just like you can mugwort. You can use it in a loose incense, which is how I am planning on using it, although I might make tea out of it. It smells pretty good, actually. It actually smells a bit like patchouli, which... I love patchouli. It's a little bit sweeter than patchouli. It's like patchouli with a slight cinnamon tang, is how I would describe it. But I plan on using this more in terms of as an incense for my divination work. I like to burn a loose incense when I do divination, and things like this may help. Now, that being said, this might be something you want to add to your recipe for your flying ointment if you use flying ointments for divination purposes like I do, and for dreams. Perhaps drinking a blend of the tea with mugwort before you go to bed can help relax you and increase your psychic vision within your dreams. So, since it is safe to ingest, you can easily do so. Let's see, is there anything else that I want to say about Eyebright? It was my intention to actually show, to make an incense for you guys, or make a talisman. Another thing that you can use it for is to put it into a talisman that you can wear or carry with you in order to increase your awareness in a certain situation, to kind of give you that eagle's eye view, so to speak, in a situation where you feel like maybe somebody's trying to hide something from you or to see something. So truth spells. Eyebright's very good for truth spells, especially if you're wanting to get to the bottom of a situation. If you suspect someone's being less than honest with you, Eyebright may be an herb that can help give you some insight into what their motivations are. Perhaps they are hiding something from you, but not for the reasons you think. Eyebright's a really good way to gain that insight. So those are the magical and medicinal properties of Eyebright. Go out, research it, find it, and use it. It'll do you some good. Blessings.